In essence, because we have really powerful new techniques now that I didn't have when I wrote Feeling Good. Most of you know that it was published in 1980, and after a real slow start, it began selling and finally exploded 8 years after it was released onto the top of the New York Times bestseller list in 1988, after it was on a national TV show. And part of the reason for the book's success is that a lot of research studies have shown that if you hand that to somebody coming to the medical center for the treatment of moderate to severe depression and anxiety, and just hand them the book and say, you're going to have to wait 4 weeks before you can see your doctor for an antidepressant or psychotherapy. And then what happens during those 4 weeks, and research has shown that at least 50% of the people and as high as 65% of the people improve so much during those 4 weeks with no other treatment that they no longer need treatment or no longer want treatment. And those studies were done by Forrest Scoggin at University of Alabama, and they were probably the first studies ever to prove that a self-help book really can help. And the effectiveness of just reading my book seems to be on par with individual psychotherapy or even a course of antidepressant drugs or both. So that was kind of a breakthrough, and I didn't even know about these studies until I read about them in the New York Times, and it took me by as a pleasant shock to the system. And the book Feeling Good continues to have those strong antidepressant effects, but Feeling Good really represented the state of the art of psychotherapy in 1980, or what was actually the new wave. When I wrote Feeling Good, there were probably a dozen cognitive therapists in the world, and we were all considered quacks, and nobody believed it had any merit. And then since the book's been published and all the people have gotten so excited about cognitive therapy, it's become the most popular form of therapy in the world and the most extensively researched form of psychotherapy in history. And that's great, but there's one problem. It doesn't help everybody. In fact, no current treatments help everybody. All the current treatments at most help only half of the people with depression, and they're only getting a 50% reduction in the severity of depression. But people don't want to feel somewhat less depressed. They want to have their symptoms disappear entirely, and they want to feel joy and self-esteem. And so I began to study, in my research and in my clinical work, why is this? Why is it that these cognitive therapy and all these other schools of therapy that sound so good on paper can only help, fewer than 50% of the people who are treated? Because in a way, everyone who's depressed wants to get better, and yet half of them don't improve hardly at all. And my research showed something that Freud struggled with over 100 years ago. He thought it was due to resistance, that for some reason people resist therapy. We want to get better, but we have 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on the shore. The mystic Anthony de Mello said, we yearn for change, but cling to the familiar. Why would we cling to the familiar if you're suffering with depression or anxiety? Freud tried to solve that puzzle. He devoted his life to solving that puzzle, and he never did figure it out. But my research and the research of others over the last 40 years, I think, has revealed two amazing things. First, resistance is real. Some people will fight against recovery from depression or anxiety. But we've also found the cause of resistance is not what people thought. People resist and have symptoms not because of what's wrong with you, because of what's right with you. And in the last 10 years in my group at Stanford that Rhonda is so familiar with, and we've evolved new, powerful, amazing techniques for eliminating therapeutic resistance quickly the first time we meet with someone, and this has made ultra rapid recovery possible for the first time. And that's why I'm writing Feeling Great to share with therapists and the general public alike how these new techniques work. So if you're a therapist, you can use them, if you like them, to upgrade your clinical skills and get much faster recovery in your patients. And if you're a general citizen or someone in treatment, I'm convinced you can use these tools on your own, whether or not you have a therapist, to change the way you think and feel. So that's why I wrote a new book, because there's a new development. It's not just a minor improvement in cognitive therapy, but another, what I think is going to be a major breakthrough in the history of psychotherapy.